Probably 1701 here, and today we're going to be ranking my top 10 favorite saber hilts that I either own or have owned. But we're going to make it interesting, and we're going to do a fun little thing I like to call 10 shots, 10 sabers. So we're going to rank all 10 sabers, and at the beginning of each saber, we're going to take a shot of some Captain Morgan white rum. Now, I like Captain Morgan. I've never had their white rum. I opened the bottle and took a sniff of it a second ago, and we'll see. I'm really small, so this is probably not going to work out very well. And I just thought it was cool to rank top 10 sabers. So we got our shot glass. We got our sabers over here. The Archon's not actually on the list. It's a cool saber, but it's not on the list. I have a similar saber I like better. And considering today is what, the St. Patrick's Day Parade, I think they're doing? Yeah, St. Patrick's Day Parade was today. So we've got our drinking in honor of St. Patrick's Day and our green saber that just had batteries die. Pour this up. And on my list at number 10, even though the batteries aren't working, is my Initiate V3, my first saber ever. Oh. That's not bad. So, now, this was the first saber I ever bought from Ultra Sabers. And I kind of realized it might not be big enough, so I had them add a catalyst pommel to it. So this is actually an Initiate V3 with a catalyst pommel. And that actually makes it the right length to work really well. Because without it, with the regular pommel it comes with, it's a little too short. But yeah, it actually works really well here. It's basically a shorter version of the Eon or Dominic's V3. You can get this in the regular Initiate or the Dark Initiate, which is black. Got a standard AV switch. It's actually really comfortable to use. It's got your grip points right there. Got it in a Guardian Blue blade with an Ultra Edge on it. But it's one of the best sabers I have for spinning. I actually prefer it over the Eon and Dominic's V3s for spinning. It's just easier for me to grip the way I tend to hold it. And I'm sure a part of the nostalgia is it was the first one I owned, but it's still one of my favorite ones to use even after all this time. I think I did my review of it almost 5 years ago. Been a while. So, definitely number 10. It's a solid, great saber. For a bigger person, I'd say it's great as an offhand saber if you want to dual wield. And I think it's really a really good starter for kids, especially with the regular pommel. I think it's sized a lot better for kids. So if you have kids that want to get in on sabering, this is a good first saber for them. But for adults, for a two-hand, especially if you're my size, you can just add a slightly longer pommel and you'll be good to go. This isn't going to work. Alright, we're not going to fill it quite so high this time because yeah, that's not bad. That's more what I need to be because I don't drink near as much as I used to. Though that came out sounding wrong. I really only drink socially if I'm with friends. I never drink by myself. This is the first time I've actually drunken alone in a place in a very long time. Not really an alcohol guy. But I'll get out and party with my friends if they want. And number 9 is the catalyst. So once again, we can see the catalyst pommel very quickly. Oh, here we go. Batteries work. I have a Guardian Blue blade with a blue illuminated AV switch with the Obsidian soundboard. Now, I didn't get this one until not that long ago, actually, last year. Bought it last year. And I wish I'd gotten it sooner. It's a really good saber. It's another one. I really like a lot of the basic sabers because they're easy to grip. And they're great for spinning and dueling. I don't actually duel with this one. I'm trying to keep it looking all nice and pretty. But that choke point, this little round spot right here, is great for holding. I tend to hold it like this with the right hand right here and the left hand down here. Luckily, there's no cover tech wheel in the way. I like the fact there's no cover tech wheel, so I can do my hand placement however I want. And you got these little prongs here, which give the emitter a bit of a personality, which I think looks absolutely phenomenal. I should have gotten this saber a lot sooner than I did. It's really good. It's got the Tri-Guardian Blue, which I think is my first saber in Tri-Guardian Blue. And it is a little brighter than the regular Guardian Blue. So if you're ever thinking, should I go ahead and spend the extra $15 for the Tri-Guardian Blue, I'd say yes. I think it's a little brighter, a little fuller. And I think it looks really, really good. This is another one that I think is good for spinning. I haven't actually dueled with it, but I think it would go really well for dueling. It's really comfortable to hold. The best sabers for me are usually the ones that are comfortable to hold and the ones that still look good. Excuse me. And this one does both really well, so it's a fantastic saber. It definitely makes number 9 on my list. Yeah, that's like half a shot, but I'm afraid it's going to have to count. Oh, man. The Exalted. So we do have a thin neck on the list, definitely. It's I did a video where I compared the Ultra Sabers Archon V3.1 to the Saberforge Exalted, and the Exalted 1. You have your cover tech down here, which is in gold, and it's out of the way. It does not get in the way of the hands at all. You have your kill key in gold, your thin neck in black and gold, your grips right here, and it's just a pretty looking saber. The emitter looks good. The handle looks good. The pommel looks good. It's very comfortable to hold. This right here, the granite part, the way it's cut right here, can get a little irritating on your palms. I don't really duel with this saber much. My friend Eric, the cameraman actually, who was in some of the dueling videos I did around New Year's, he actually likes to use this saber some. Yeah, the really big guy. He's the cameraman. Ever since I moved, him and I live a little ways away. He doesn't make it over quite as often as he used to. But, go ahead and get a look at that. This is the Saberforge Amber LED, and I like that. It's kind of a gold yellow, almost orange, but it looks really good, because I really wanted to make this saber my own. Same color on the AV switch. And I really like it. And that's their Viridian soundboard, which is my only Saberforge saber with the Viridian soundboard, but I do like it. And it's easily my favorite of the sort of Archon-looking sabers that I own, or have owned, or have even really seen for the most part. I didn't drink this, hold on. This was a terrible idea. Got a little more weight to it, I think, than an Ultra Saber, and it feels less like a prop and more like a real saber, especially with the blade taken out. I almost think when I cut the button on, a real blade's going to shoot out of the thing, and that's pretty awesome. Oh, that's too much. I get the distinct feeling I'm not going to make it to the end of this. We have the Saberforge Talon. Oh. And I love this saber. This saber just looks phenomenal. As soon as they announced this saber, I knew I had to have it, and I knew it had to be weathered. It's just made to be a weathered saber. It looks menacing. You have the pommel right here with the pointed edge that just looks sinister. Matter of fact, Eric has actually cut himself on this pommel because he complained about it a lot. You have the grip right here. I don't know if it's a matte finish or quite what it's called. There's a word for it, but it's rough right here, kind of like sandpaper. Then you have this part right here on the body that looks really good. You have the kill key and your activation switch. You have the neck, which looks phenomenal. And then the emitter, which also looks menacing. This was made to be a Sith saber, and definitely needs to come weathered. It's intimidating on a wall, in my opinion, especially since it's one of their apprentice hilts, which is one of their smaller hilts. I tend to prefer the Saber Forge apprentice hilts, I guess because I'm a smaller guy. They just seem to fit my personality well. But to get something like this that can be this menacing while being this small and this comfortable to hold and use is really impressive and a sign of how good Saber Forge is at their work. Now this is in their deep red. Now on camera this tends to appear more as a pink color. It's not pink. This is actually a very dark red, a very Sith red, and a much better red than their standard red or the Ultra Sabers red. Because have a red AV switch. Got that nice crimson soundboard, which is their dark side sound font, as this is just the Saber Core 2.0, so I don't have the multiple sound fonts like the 2.5 and the 3.0 have. I'm looking forward to getting a 2.5 Saber. This is a phenomenal Saber. I tend to grip it about like this. Now it is a thin neck, but that doesn't really cause much of a problem other than the fact that it has to have a heavy grade blade. Thin neck sabers have to have a heavy grade blade. The Exalted has the same issue. So it makes the blade a little heavier than I like, and I would much prefer to be able to use a mid-grade on it, but since it's a thin neck, that doesn't work. Ooh. Master Reflex is very unhappy right now. But it's a phenomenal saber, and definitely ranks at, what are we at? 7. Yes, we're at 7. 7 on my list. It's definitely a 7 on my list, I know, because I checked the paper. Too much. Let's see if we can get some of that back in the bottle. No, it just poured into the sink. That's alright. Number 6 is actually probably going to be a surprise to people. So, number 6. The Dark Prophecy. The Dark Prophecy. Now, the Ultra Saber's Dark Prophecy. They do 2 different versions of the Prophecy. The regular Prophecy, which you'll see later on in this list. Matter of fact, some of you probably already know where it is. And the dark version. And the only difference being that the dark version is black, the regular version is silver. But the Dark Prophecy is a great saber. I know a lot of people probably figured I would put them together, but I don't. Alright, sorry. Fallen ran out of room. Had to free up some room real quick. Just, give the alcohol more time to work in my system, because that's always fun. Anyway. The Dark Prophecy. I do like the Dark Prophecy. The cover tech wheel is placed well on the right side. The problem with these is that sometimes it comes on the left. Mine originally came on the left. I had to send it back to them and have them move it to the right. I do like the gold accents right here on the screws. They give a little personality to the saber, and they do a good job of hiding the blade retention screws. I love the slanted emitter. I'm a huge fan of slanted emitters. Curved and slanted emitters are a really big hot button with me. I really like them. They really appeal to me. So that's probably one of the reasons why I love the Prophecy Hilts as much as I do. We have a black AV switch, which is red illuminated to match the blade. And the handle's really comfortable. This is modeled after Anakin's Episode 2 saber, which is not exactly like it, but it's definitely based on it. And it's really comfortable. It's light, it's comfortable to hold, and it's great for dueling and spinning. Got it with a V4 soundboard in the Sith font in their blazing red. This is their tri-blazing red. A little brighter than their regular blazing red. Looks a lot like the Saber Forge red, just their regular red. It's a very bright red, but I still like it. It's a really good saber. I tend to hold it about like this. The cover tape wheel is in exactly the right place. Because if it was on the left side, it would be right in the way of my hand, or on the back, it would be right in the way of my hand. But with it being on the right side, my index finger barely touches it. And then my right hand right up here where the choke points are. It makes it great for gripping. And you also have this little accent right here with the light shining through the top hole. It's a phenomenal saber, and if it wasn't for its silver brother, it would probably rank higher on this list. But I could sit around and mess around with this saber all day. It's a phenomenal saber. Makes a great Sith saber. Yeah. Ultra Sabers is interesting. Because in raffles and stuff, mystery boxes, raffles, stuff like that, where you get random sabers, they have sent me some stuff that I didn't care for. Like the time they sent me the Monarch, when it was well known I hate the Monarch. It looks like a table leg. That's the PG way of putting that. It's a terrible, terrible saber. And then they sent me a Dark Liberator, which I didn't care for. But a lot of times they really have sent me sabers that I either didn't think I would like or wouldn't have liked enough to buy. But as I've stated in my last video was the Dark Sentinel review, and I'd already owned 2 Dark Sentinels, but the Dark Sentinel they sent me was actually really good. Really turned me around on it. So they sent me a good saber there, and then for my last raffle prize, I got an Apprentice, which I also didn't think I'd care for, but has really grown on me as well. So Ultra Sabers has done a good job of sending me sabers that have really changed my opinion on them. Because a lot of times, having a saber in hand makes a big difference. You can't just go by pictures and reviews. Actually having your hands on the saber, which is why I love the fact that Ultra Sabers travels to conventions the way they do, so you can actually go to the conventions and handle these sabers in person. It can really change how you think of the saber. And number 5 on my list is like this. It was a saber I won in my first raffle with them. And it was a saber that looked interesting, but not enough for me to buy it. So, number 5 is the Bellicose. And this is a phenomenal saber. This saber means a lot to me. And the battery's dead on it. It's in an Arctic blue with an ultra edge. But this one, I don't know why. This one has a special place in my heart. Because it was a raffle prize that really turned me around and really made me realize that my initial reaction to just a picture of the saber might not be the right one. But it's a really comfortable saber. It's just getting into their premium hilt range, but it has the comfort of one of the basic sabers, which tend to be the most comfortable. It doesn't really have choke points, but since there's little in the way, it's very comfortable. You have plenty of places to choose to put your hands. I tend to grip it right here, just instinctively. And again, the CoverTech wheel is out of the way. It's on the right side where it needs to be. I have a custom sound font on it, which I really like too. I can't actually remember how I made it, what sound fonts I put on it to make it. And that's probably one of the reasons I like it, because it's the only one that has these particular sounds on it, and I really like them. It has a blue AV switch to match the blade. And the button right here is customizable. It can be red, green, black, chrome, bronze, gold. Since this was a free saber, mine came with a chrome button there, which I will admit I wish I had more of like a gold or a bronze one to kind of stand out a little more. But I like it. It still works really well. It's one of the most comfortable sabers I either own or have owned. It's very comfortable. It's great for dueling, especially for its size. And I love the fact that mine was a little different than most. The CoverTech wheel is silver. Most of the Bellicoses come with a black CoverTech wheel, but mine came with a silver one, and I like that. The contrast right there with that and this part of the handle works really well. And also the pommel. You can't really see it, but my pommel, I've never seen a pommel quite like it, because they offer 2 pommels for the Bellicose. One has shorter grooves and 3 lines right here. The other has longer grooves and 1 line right here. Mine, however, has 2 lines right here. And I've never seen that before. I've never seen that on the website. I'm guessing it's just a mistake in the factory. But, as I said, most of the time you have the pommel with 3 lines and shorter grooves, or the one with 1 line and longer grooves. But mine seems to be in the middle. It has 2 lines and kind of medium length grooves. And I don't know. I like the idea of knowing that I might have either a one of a kind or a very rare pommel. And I like the fact that naturally it has the sort of curved emitter with the little hood right here. That definitely appeals to me. It has a little blade holder right here that if you unscrew this, the blade holder comes out. It does make changing the blade or taking the blade out very cumbersome and irksome. But other than that, the saber is really, really nice. And I still consider it the best raffle prize I've ever gotten from Ultra Sabers. So they do, I do like to think they take really good care of their customers. I haven't given this much of a look of disdain since I used to have homework and I would just stare down at it. Saber Forge Disciple. This is a phenomenal saber. Probably my favorite of what I call my Sith hilts. Ugh. Ugh. The only thing I don't like about this one is because it came with this, their newer style kill keys with these plastic ones that look like absolute crap. I much prefer the metal ones like on the Talon. Metal kill key right here. I like that. It's just better for display purposes. Looks better. But they use these plastic ones now that are, I don't care for as much. But moving on from that, the saber itself is freaking amazing. You have the pommel right here, which I know it doesn't really look amazing, but it fits with the saber really well. I like it. The saber has a really simple design that appeals to me. Now it has a CoverTech wheel right here, but much like the Talon, it gets in the way of the way I grip the saber, so I took it off. And I don't miss it at all. It's fine with it gone. It looks good there for display purposes, but for actual use, it gets right in the way of where I grip. So I removed it, and I haven't looked back since. The pommel's really well, though, but I can unscrew it if I need to get to the battery. But I don't need to get to the battery because this comes, Saber Forge Sabers come with a recharge port installed. That's what the kill key's for. Right there. Has a red LED to match the red blade color. With the V4 Infinity blade, which looks like a hybrid between an Ultra Edge and a standard blade saber from Saber Forge. Although when it's lit, it looks more like an Ultra Saber's Ultra Edge. Now, this is their weathered hilt, and I love the fact that Saber Forge offers the weathering option, and lots of options that Ultra Sabers doesn't offer when it comes to weathering your hilt. That's really awesome. Gives it a really Sith look, much like the Talon. We have a leather grip on it, something else Ultra Sabers doesn't offer that Saber Forge does, and I love the leather grip right here. This is the black reptile hilt. They have a reptile, a standard, and then a mantis style you can use, and this is the black on it, which goes really well. It's really comfortable to grip. You have a small little section right here where it narrows to give it a little bit of personality, and then you have the emitter right here, which also looks menacing, and it also has a curve to it, and as I've said before, I do love curved emitters. These points right here, by the way, are not sharp, at least on mine, so they're not going to hurt you. You don't have to worry about cutting yourself. This is a very safe saber to use, at least the one I own. You have your blade retention screw right here. Especially once I put a, this is actually an Ultra Saber saber. I take that back. I'm so used to having the Saber Forge Infinity V4 blade on it, but right now I actually have an Ultra Sabers mid-grade blade. I'm going to be honest with you, this, Saber Forge Sabers, their V4 Infinity blade, is basically the thickness of an Ultra Sabers heavy grade blade, I believe, which is too thick for me. I don't like my sabers to be blade heavy. I'm too small for that. So I took an Ultra Sabers mid-grade blade, which is only half as thick, which means the blade weighs less, which changes the balance point of the saber, makes the saber much less top heavy, much less blade heavy, makes it a lot easier for me to use. This saber became much higher on my list when I put an Ultra Sabers mid-grade blade on it. And I highly recommend that for smaller people like myself. Now it does have a flicker to it because the Saber Forge saber does allow you to change several of your options on it. One is including a flicker. and I instinctively have a spot where I like to hold this saber. I put it in my right hand right here, the left hand here, which isn't, I will admit, it's more, I hold it a little more on the lower part of the saber than I do a lot of others. But it works really well. It's not perfect, but it works really, really well, and I'm not going to knock that bottle over. But the saber itself is a masterpiece. It's really nice. It looks good. It looks good on the shelf without a blade. It's really comfortable to use. It's really fun to duel with, and it definitely makes, you know, this worked out a lot better in my mind. Ooh. Number 3 is as high as it is, mainly for nostalgia. I grew up in the 80s. Alright, we're back. Yeah, the camera keeps jumping because my phone has like 8 gigs of memory. It keeps running out. Because despite the fact I spend hundreds of dollars on lightsaber replicas, I'm still rocking an iPhone 4 because priorities. Anyway, we were talking about nostalgia. And a lot of younger people, this one might not appeal to them as much, although the saber itself, since it uses the modular hilt system, which means the emitter and the pommel on it can be changed, and you can create your own custom hilts with it. It has a lot of possibilities with that. The actual saber itself might not appeal to most people, but I absolutely love it because it's based on what I consider to be my favorite sword of all time. And that's going to be the Ultra Saber's Omen. This is, of course, a nice nod and homage to the Sword of Omens from Thundercats. And I love Thundercats. Thundercats was my favorite cartoon when I was a kid, even more so than Transformers. I loved Thundercats. Lion was one of my childhood heroes. And I love the Sword of Omens. It's the only sword I like more than Excalibur. I'm a big Excalibur fan. And there's even an episode of Thundercats that has Excalibur in it. But I love the Sword of Omens. It's just a phenomenal looking sword, and they've done a great job with it. It's a very heavy saber because the emitter is very big. So it's definitely not good for dueling with, except for Eric apparently. Because when we were shooting our New Year's videos, Eric was just ripping people apart with this thing. I don't know how a guy can complain about being wore out from work when his job is sitting down all day, but then can come over here and take out 2 people at once with this thing in his offhand, using his offhand. But he can. But it's a really intricate hilt, really well detailed. You have the pommel right here, and then you have the handle, and it's really nice. It looks really good. And the AV switch fits in really well with the rest of the hilt. And I actually have the AV switch with a blue illuminated AV switch, so it kind of matches with the saber. This saber from Ultra Sabers actually comes in 3 variants. You have the Crimson Omen, the Dark Omen, and the Azure Omen. And Azure is French for blue, so naturally you can tell I have the Azure Omen. The Crimson Omen, all of the parts that, all these blue accents you see right here are red on it, and the Dark Omen, all of these blue accents parts you see are black, which I will admit is actually closer to the original 80s Thundercats cartoon, having black on all of these like the Dark Omen does. But the Azure Omen really jumped out at me. I just loved the blue on it. I thought the anodizing looked really good. I thought the cat's head looked really good. Silver illuminated blade. I love the fact that the light lights up the cat's eye. Kind of matches with the original 80s toy, which I also own. And reminds me of the cartoon. I got the Deacon Silver blade just because since the saber is based on a sword, and I didn't have a Deacon Silver blade anyway, it seemed like a good idea, and it looks really good. One of the things I like about this saber is, unlike most sabers, even when it's cut off, if you were cosplaying as Lion-O, it would still look good because it's supposed to be a sword. It's based off of an actual sword. So unlike most sabers where they're cut off and they look kind of weird, this saber, even when it's off, still fits great with a Thundercats cosplay. But then you can cut it on and really shock your audience. It was an odd thing for them to do, to think of this kind of sword as a lightsaber, and I absolutely love the fact they did it, sight beyond sight. And that's the reason why I place it so high on my list, is just the nostalgia factor. I love having the saber. Eric's a big fan of it as well, my cameraman. He's a really big fan of this saber. He wants to get one himself eventually, one day. More like a half shot. We're getting to number 2 on our list, and I've stated before that the ones on my list tend to be the more basic ones, just because I'm a smaller guy. I'm 5'6", generally weigh around 130 to 135, somewhere up in there. My weight really fluctuates. You can tell if you watch some of my videos. My weight fluctuates very easily, but I tend to prefer the basic hilts. But the next hilt on my list, number 2 on my list, has to be on there because it makes a good showpiece. It's a movie hilt. It's a good shelf queen, and I don't recommend dueling with it. You know what? Let me just bring it up before I go into all that. Number 2 on my list is the Graphlix, which is the Ultra Sabers. It's the Ultra Sabers version of the Graphlix. I haven't forgotten. I don't even think I've tasted it at this point. Ooh. My teeth are going numb. It's not exactly like the Graphlix. There are some liberties taken, especially with the activation box. But it does work, and I do like it. Now, they have 2 versions of this. They have their SE, which is their standard edition, and their CE, their collector's edition. The CE is nickel-plated, which I don't have. Other people have it. You can look it up. I have the standard edition. Now, the buttons right here, much like the Bellicose, are customizable. You can get them how you want. You can get red, green, blue, bronze, silver, gold. And a lot of people tend to pick colors that match. I went with something different. My colors don't quite match. I wanted them to be a little different. So I got their brass or bronze, I forget what it is, button for here, and then their gold button for here. And when you order, it actually says you can pick whether the front's one. You can pick which one the front one is and which one the back one is. But I'll be honest with you, I don't actually know which one's the front one and which one's the back one. I don't know if they consider this the front or if they consider this the front. I have no idea. They really need to be a little more specific on that. But you can actually pick what the front button is and what the back button is, even though you might not know which one's which. Anyway, this one came out being the bronze, the brass, which looks good, and this one came out being the gold, which also looks good, and I'm quite happy with it. I got it in an, they're lighter blue, which, after this much alcohol, I'm going to be honest, I'm forgetting the name of. It's not their Guardian blue, but their other one. They're lighter blue. Arctic blue. Haha! Yes, they're Arctic blue. Talking about the hilt. These things right here are plastic. They look like they could be rubber. They are plastic. They are a hard plastic, and they work just fine. You get a CoverTech wheel for free, which is out of the way. Won't bother you at all. You get the activation box and the AV switch for free. All this right here I didn't have to pay extra for. A lot of times on a lot of their sabers you have to pay extra for an AV switch. This one comes standard for free. But if you want it illuminated, you got to pay extra. And that looks good. The rabbit ears look good. The buttons right here looks good. And then of course you have the curved emitter, which I've already said I'm a big fan of. So you have the curved / slanted emitter right here, which I absolutely like. This saber means a lot to me for a lot of reasons. I mean, it's the Graphlix. It was Luke's first saber. This is the saber, of course, he got. That was originally his father's. It looks really good. It is not meant for dueling with. Do not duel with this saber. It is not easy. In my video that I did 2.5 years ago where I'm spinning it, I can spin it pretty decently, but honestly, it's not made for spinning. It's not made for dueling with, and it's decent. It's, I won't say comfortable, but holding it right now, just holding it, it feels fine. But when I actually try to practice with it, it gets very uncomfortable very quickly. This is a saber that's made to be seen and not made to be used. It's a shelf queen. It's a display piece. You don't want to actually duel with this thing unless you're just bigger than me, able to tolerate things I can't, or just incredibly stupid. But that's just my opinion. And then that's a subjective thing. But it's definitely number 2 on my list. It was a saber I had to have. You'll notice the Chosen one's not even on my list. I do own a Chosen one, and I'm very disappointed with that hilt. It doesn't do much for me. But this one, on the other hand, is really amazing, and I really like it. I do want to get the Vader's Vault version eventually, but the Ultra Sabers version, while not being screen accurate, is still a good way to get it at a decent price. You again. We're getting down to our number 1 pick, and my number 1 pick is, that's too much, but you know what? It's the number 1 pick. Fine. The number 1 pick, for anyone who knows me at all, anyone who has watched my older videos, anyone who knows me on the Saber forum, you'll probably knew what the number 1 pick was going into this. And the number 1 pick is exactly what you think it would be. And I'm just going to go ahead and drink this thing. Hey, I don't even taste it at this point. It's great. But I do feel it. Is the Prophecy. They had a CE version that they did before I became a member, and you can't get it anymore. My friend James Casey has one, and I'm gonna sneak. I'm from America, but I'm gonna sneak over to England, and I plan on stealing it from him at some point. He already knows this, so if it ever comes up missing, James, it was me. I so stole it and got away with it. But moving along, I actually own 2 Prophecies, and I love the saber so much that I'm keeping both of them. I will never sell one of my regular Prophecies. They're amazing. I own 2. I own one in Bane's Heart, and then I own one in Guardian Blue. And between the 2, I do love my Guardian Blue and more because blue is my favorite color. And this saber is just, it combines the best of both worlds to me. It functions well, and it looks phenomenal. It is so comfortable. You have the choke points here. You have the very basic pommel. You can put a different pommel on if you want. If it's MHS compatible, this pommel on screw, you can put a different pommel on it. I've seen some great pommel additions to it, by the way, from other people. The cover tape wheel, again, is on the right side, so it's out of the way. Anyway, this part right here is streamlined. It gives it a little bit of a personality right here with these lines right here. But it's still comfortable to use. You have your 2 choke points right here. You have your AV switch, which this is the Guardian Blue one, so it has a blue AV switch. And then, as I mentioned on the Dark Prophecy, you have the gold accents right here, which do a dual job of looking awesome and covering up the retention screws that hold the blade in place. It has the slanted emitter, which I absolutely love. My favorite sabers have that. And then you have the 2 holes, which light up on the top one to give the blade a good look. This one just has the standard Guardian Blue because the Tri-Blue, at the time I ordered it, hadn't been invented yet. Let's bring out the other one with the Bane's Heart, which still looks as good as the day I did the review on it. You have the accent light there, the blade here. Now it has a silver AV switch because Ultra Saber still hasn't done any kind of purple AV color for this, and I don't know why. They should have, but the silver looks really good. Bane's Heart's a cool color. I like it. It's the reason why I had to have 2 sabers instead of just one for this hilt, because I like Bane's Heart. I always wanted one Bane's Heart saber just because the magenta color is really cool, really unique, and I'm really fond of my review of this saber. It's one of my favorite reviews. Now between the two, this one's my favorite. Between the two, I do prefer the Guardian Blue. This is my ultimate saber right here. It has function, it has looks, it has everything.